Right then, so if you want to code along and play around in DevTools, you're more than welcome. Can we all remember how to get there? Is that a yes? Is that a no? That's a yes? Okay, awesome. You don't? Right, yep. So if you just go to any new tab in Chrome, if you right click, there should be an option to inspect down the bottom. Once you've done that, that will open Chrome DevTools. And then click on the Sources tab. Are you there, Monica? Laptop's a bit slow, yeah. Okay, yeah, Shimon can sort you out, I'm sure. Alright, so every Thursday afternoon we will just do a board challenge review. So it won't necessarily be the exact question that you've had on the board. We will talk around the topic a little bit as well. But for the purpose of this first one, just to make sure we're on the same page, I'll use the questions we had on the board as a template. And the first part of it was really just understanding the different ways we can write strings in JavaScript. So you had part of a function definition on the board, and inside of the function body you had something like welcome player, like that. I believe there was a semicolon on that one as well, but I think you were missing a semicolon after the invocation of the function. Firstly, why have I got a little error symbol here? So this is a really good opportunity to practice our debugging skills as well. So why have I got a little red mark there? Uncaught syntax error. Nope, not a return. It's not the return that's doing that. I need another curly brace. Yeah, exactly. I haven't closed my function. Yep. So there'll be little things like that when we're doing live workshops that, you know, I might not spot, or, you know, I've done it on purpose to catch you out, those sorts of things. So yeah, just keep yourself on your, just keep looking out and find some errors if there are any in the code. So that was all what the board challenge was about, really. Trying to debug some errors and then explain your code in a clear and concise manner to either non-technical people or just to your colleagues. So we had something like that to begin with. And at the moment, what will that function return? What will be the output of that function if I run that bit of code? Yeah, you say nothing, but if we have a function that doesn't return anything in JavaScript, it will return undefined, or it will be undefined as an output, yeah? So how can I actually return something meaningful? Write the return keyword, yeah? Run that again, and we get welcome player. Now, that would have been a valid first stage in the board question, just to get the actual function working, yeah? So there's no errors in my code now. That should always be your first aim with the board challenges, just to get something working, get an output produced. However, it seems quite obvious that this input is getting lost, yeah? So there's no evidence of that input in our output from our function. So a lot of you suggested ways we could improve that to get a meaningful message, perhaps to display welcome Raphael instead, yeah? How would we do that? Yep, so let's give a parameter name up here, and we could call that, perhaps. Okay, let's go with name then. If I call it name, how do I now adjust this function to return the string of welcome Raphael? Or what couple of methods could we use? Concatenation. So by concatenation you mean using what symbol? Plus. So you mean use the plus operator to concatenate strings, yeah? So the plus operator does a few things, right? In JavaScript, it can either do add in numbers. So now we'd get 15 if I ran that. Yeah. But it's clever enough to know that if we concatenate two strings, What are we going to get now? Still 15? We're going to get a 7 and an 8, yeah? 78, all as one string. So be aware of that. Yeah, if you have two strings, it merges the content of the two strings. If you have two numbers written as numbers, it will perform mathematical operations. The operator is the same in both cases, it's the plus symbol, but depending on your data type, they do different things. Make sense? Awesome. In fact, let's get rid of that whole line, we don't need it anymore. Okay, so how do I say welcome Raphael? Give me one method. Concatenation, we said. So do I just put a plus in there? Does that work? No. So what do I do? So where do I end my first string? Before the plus, so there. Let's see what happens. We'll leave it like that. We'll leave it like that, and we'll see the output. And do I just leave player like that, or do I have to wrap it in a dollar symbol? And you know, some people are doing all this sort of stuff. And it has to be name instead of player in our instance. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. What will that output? Welcome Raphael, but it will be all together, all squashed together, right? So we've successfully merged two strings, but it's not formatted very nicely. So when you are using concatenation, you have to make sure that you manually add a space to one of your strings, yeah? And obviously in this case we've only got one string, the other is just a variable, and it doesn't really make sense to put the space on the variable input, but we could do that. So now that we've manually added a space to our string, it's a bit nicer formatted. Maybe we want a capital welcome, I don't know. So that's one method. So that used to be the only method of combining strings in JavaScript, or string literals at least. If I use single quotes, is it any different, or is it exactly the same? Exactly the same, right? So that's just a preference, but try and be consistent with your preference. If I've got welcome there, and then I also want to add on another string, you know, how are you? Whoops. Then please don't mix your quotes. So you've got single quotes and double quotes. Yeah, it's not very good practice if you're mixing them. So whatever you pick, stick to it. And just be aware that in JSON, is it in JSON? Yeah, in JSON they want double quotes. Yeah, and you'll find that in some other programming languages, double quotes are preferred. So maybe you want to use that, or maybe you want to use the single because it's shorter. Your preference, as I say. There's not really one majorly adopted way, but just stick to a consistent way. All right, so what is the more modern way of combining strings? String interpolation, and specifically in JavaScript we can do string interpolation using template literals. And template literals we can create using backticks. So now, what do? Do I just do it like that and do a plus something again? Nope. So what happens instead with template literals? So we need to put the variable inside this time, but how do we tell the template that this is a variable rather than an actual string? Yep, we put a $, and then put the variable wrapped inside of some curly braces. And we don't have to have a separate space because that is part of the whole template. Yeah, if we put a space in there in the template, we get it with spaces between. If we put no space, there will of course be no spaces on the output. Yeah. If we put lots of spaces, what's the output going to look like? A lot of spaces. If we did it the other way, whoops. And we put lots of spaces. I don't mean spaces. Yeah, I suppose it's not a great example. But if I did it like that, what's the output going to be? Is it going to have lots of spaces or just one space still? Nope, not a lot of spaces. Still one space because the spaces are inside the string. Yeah, it only counts the spaces inside the string. Anything that's just in the JavaScript program, yeah, JavaScript doesn't care how much white space you have. That's why we can do cool things like dropping down a line and indenting. Yeah, it doesn't care about the white space. The white space is for us as humans, so we can read it a lot easier. So don't do that in your code. Like make it nice and neat, but you get the point, right? Okay. Yeah, that was, I guess, it pretty much for the first beginner question. Any questions to elaborate on that? Yeah.
I have a question. When you're using backticks,
Yep.
and then when you're invoking the function, is it okay that do they have to be consistent? Do you have to use the backticks in when you invoke the function? Or is it
I'm not fully understanding the question at this stage. 1 second, let me put that again. So,
so you were saying how you have to be consistent with the quotation marks. So
Yep.
double, but I'm just wondering when you use the backticks, and then you see where you invoke the function using double quotation marks.
oh yeah, yep.
Do they have to be consistent? Do they?
No, definitely not. So you're saying, does that have to be a backtick really? Is that your question?
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So,
Can it be a backtick?
can it be a backtick? What do you think, guys? Can it be a backtick?
No.
Ooh, that's interesting. So you think you cannot just put a normal string like that with backticks? You can. You absolutely can. Yeah, that will work as before. So don't forget that the backtick is just another way of creating a string. Yeah?
It's going to be the same thing.
So it's going to be exactly the same thing. Yeah? There are 3 ways of creating strings. There's your double quotes, your single quotes, or your backticks. The differences come in when you're combining them with variables. When we're using single and double quotes, we had to use the concatenation method with the plus operator. When you're using template literals, you combine it with a variable by putting the variable inside of the string, but using some extra syntax, specifically $, curly braces, to say this is a variable or this is a bit of code. It doesn't actually have to be a variable. I could invoke some functions here. Math.max 3, 6, 9. What's that going to return? The whole thing? Yeah, welcome 9. Yeah? You see? So whatever's inside of the $curly braces is executed as JavaScript code before the string is created. So this bit will get run first, if you like. The result of that will get put into the string. So behind the scenes, all of that has now been replaced by the 9, and that's what we get as an output. Did I explain that all right? Did that make sense? Yeah? That we can have any bit of JavaScript code inside of this $curly braces. And indeed, when we write our React components, that's quite similar, isn't it, to what we have to do inside of our JSX tags. We have to make sure we wrap any JavaScript code inside of curly braces. We don't need the $ in that case, but it's a similar principle. Any more add-on questions around how we construct? Yeah, okay, yeah, really good question. Really good question.
With the backticks, I think it's fine if you put apostrophe, but if you use the double quotes, things messes it up.
Yeah, welcome to Nicholas's. It's kind of right. Nicholas's, right? That I'm not sure with an S. I'm never sure with these rules on English grammar. Can we do apostrophe S if it ends in an S, or do we just write it like that? But whatever. So welcome to Nicholas's example, something like that, right? And the problem is, if we had single quotes, you see what's happened? It said, create a string, inside of that string put all of that stuff, and then it thinks we've ended the string. Ooh. So all of this, it doesn't know what it is. Is this a string? Is this a variable? It can't be a variable because it's got a space in it. So we've just confused the compiler and it doesn't know what to do. So yeah, sure. One solution to that is definitely put some backticks, and because it's using different symbols, we still get the correct output. Or double quotes, yeah. So if we use double quotes, because this symbol is different, it will still interpret it. So that might be another reason to prefer double quotes. As I say, your preference, but make up your minds. But if we are really stubborn and we want to just use single quotes, we have to escape it, yeah. So if we want to say whatever I type next, the next character that I type, do not change it or do not treat it as anything else other than its literal character, we can use something called an escape character. And in JavaScript and in a lot of languages, it's a slash, but it's not a forward slash, it's a backslash, right? I think in JavaScript, yeah. So now, if we run that, we're not going to get welcome to Nicholas backslash. The backslash isn't going to get included, but it will still keep our apostrophe in there, or our single quote. Yeah? If you want to use a backslash, yeah? It's just backslash twice. So now we're going to get welcome to Nicholas's backslash example. Yeah. So you escape the backslash, so you say this is literally going to be a backslash, please. If you put multiple backslashes, it gets very confusing. So like, work out what that's going to output. But yeah, we get 2 of them, right? Because we've got 3 escaped ones and 2. 2 escaped ones and 3 of the actual escape symbol. Cool. Good questions, guys. Thank you. Any other interesting curiosities from that example that popped into your head? No? So should we start looking at a few string methods then? So I'll start with the ones that were in the board challenge example, and then we'll introduce some other ones and see what happens. So let's leave it as name. I think we had, again, we were missing like the inputs and the returns, but we've covered all that. Yep, go ahead, Joshua.
Because like, when you're on YouTube, quite often they use the console.log.
Yep.
So when do you use it?
When do you use console.log?
Yeah.
Just when you want to output something to the console from your code. I don't need to do that because we're using DevTools and we're just returning the result of the function. So never leave console.logs in your final bit of code. It looks very unprofessional. It's another one of those code smells, right, that Ricardo talks about. If you submitted a tech test and you had lots of console.logs in it, we'd think, oh, this person got really stuck when they were trying their code and they put console.logs everywhere because they don't know what's going on. So it can be a useful debugging tool, right? And you can use it to see the value of a variable at a particular point. Absolutely, you can do that, right? I'm not going to stop you doing that, especially while you're learning. But usually there's some more advanced tools out there that can help you debug your code, and if you leave it in your final code that you submit to anyone else, it looks very unprofessional. So try not to do it, yeah? And they do it all the time on tutorials and stuff online because you just want to quickly see what things are, right? And it's useful for that. Cool. Yeah, so we had something like return name, and then I think we had a reverse. So I know this isn't correct, but I'm just putting it the way it was on the board to begin with for people that haven't had a chance to have a go at intermediate or it wasn't clear. So we had split.reverse.join, yeah? So we had something like that, and we had a space inside of here. My example, I made multiple words. Oh, it wasn't Da Vinci, was it? Sorry, it was Da Turtle, right? Because of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So yeah, just try and make it a little bit of a fun example sometimes. Right. Okay, yeah, good point. And written on the board was a capital F. And apologies for my terrible handwriting. Sometimes you can't tell whether things are capital or not, which is why sometimes I underline them just to say this is definitely a capital. All right. So hopefully you can see straight away, if you type that example into DevTools, that is a give me mark, right? If you typed the capital F, you immediately see that something is broken. So why is it complaining? Why can't we write function with a capital F? It's not a keyword. So keywords such as return, they are case sensitive. I cannot write return, it will not do the same thing. I cannot write return randomly like that, it will not do the same thing. Yeah, computers don't interpret that as the same word, it's a different character code. So make sure if you're using a keyword it has the right case. Are they all lowercase? Well, not really, right? So when we do something like math.max, as I did previously, that has to be a capital M. If I use a little m, it wouldn't recognize it as a class. Yeah, like when we're naming our components, they have to be capitals. So when we're using static methods, such as math.max, object.values, these do have to be capitals. All right. Okay, so as we've got DevTools, I think it's quite nice to break it down into stages. So we can look in isolation what split does. So line number 3, I know that's sort of what you did in your example, right, to him, but then you didn't take it that step further and fix it, but that's okay. This is a good way to learn, yeah, to do it step by step. And running that code, what will my output be? An array, yeah, so I like that. Be really clear with what the output data type is going to be. It's going to be an array, you said, of letters? You meant of words, okay. You meant of words, but you said letters. Yeah. Damn. No worries, so how many elements in the array? 3? What about the spaces? Why haven't we got 5 and we've got some empty spaces? Yeah, because we're splitting it by the space. So whatever we split it by gets removed from the final elements. So we have 3 elements, Leonardo, Da, and Turtle. And they are 3 strings, right? So we haven't changed the original data type, we've just split it into numerous parts. So if it's a string to begin with, it's going to be an array of strings at the end. Cool. And I'm quite intrigued actually whether we could, it does do that. I thought it would highlight it. It wasn't highlighting it before, was it? It wasn't highlighting reverse as an error, or not that I saw. Oh no, it's highlighting it because of the semicolon. So how about that then? Split.reverse. What will that return?
It's going to return something that's not what you need to want, right?
So it's going to return something but not what I want. I agree with that. What's it going to return?
I think it's going to display the whole code.
The whole code? Don't think so. Yeah, I'm not 100%, but I think it will return undefined. I think what it's trying to do is trying to find a reverse property on our array. And that reverse property doesn't exist. Or, okay, yeah, it's going to return. Yeah, you see, it's going to return the reverse function, but the definition of the reverse function. Yeah, of course. Nice. So it has found it, but because reverse is a method.
I made the mistake.
Oh, you made the mistake. That's how you know. Nice. Yeah, so it did find the reverse method or function attached to our array because it inherited it from the other array object, but we haven't invoked it. So we need to invoke that code, and then that will do what we expect and return the array, but with the elements in the reversed positions. So the last element has become the first, The second, because it was the middle one, is still the middle. And the first one's gone to the end. Yeah? So that's what the reverse part of that code did. Going back a little bit. Some people interpreted it on the board as not having the space in. If you don't put a space in there, it's essentially an empty string, so you don't give it a separator. What will the value of the output be? Don't have to tell me exactly, but yeah, it's going to be an array of letters, right? So once we've reversed them, we're going to have the letter E, then... Oh, hold on. Are we going to have the letter E first, or are we going to have the letter T first? We're going to have the letter E first, then L, then T, then R, then U, then T, and so on, yeah? Will it include any other characters, or will it just be letters? It will include the spaces as well, yeah? So notice that we've got some space characters in there as well. So there is no separator, so it just individually takes each character. Some people tried putting double spaces. What did that do?
That gives you an array of letters.
That gives you an array of letters as well, does it?
Oh, I didn't use it.
So what is this saying? So whatever we put inside of the quotes is our separator. So it scans the whole of our string for double space. Are there any double spaces inside of that string? Nope. So therefore, what's the output going to be?
An empty array.
An empty array. Good guess. It's not an empty array. So it won't overwrite or get rid of the string. It will just not split the string in any way. So that whole string is going to be put inside of an array. Like that. Yeah, so split. All split has done is done its data type conversion. It hasn't actually split the string into separate elements. You've just got an array here of one element, the original string. Does that make sense? If I put the letter Z in here, what's going to happen? What do you mean nothing? Something's going to happen, right? You're still going to get some output. Nothing is never an acceptable answer.
Yeah, you need
I'm trying to find
the output.
The same thing, right? Who said the same? The same thing.
Yeah.
There's no, I know it's what you meant, but please never just say nothing. So there's no Zs in our string. So in other words, it scans the whole string looking for a Z. If it found one, it would split it at that point. I'll show you that in a second. But it doesn't find any Zs, so therefore the original string just gets put in an array again. Oh, that's an X. That's a bit confusing actually. If we had a couple of Zs in there, what are we going to end up with? Leonardo da, and then a space, and then turtle. Are there any spaces in the first and the last element? Yeah, I think it's going to be Leonardo space da space as the first element. Then the second element is just going to be a space, and the third element is going to be space turtle. Yeah, like so. Oh, but it's reversed, so yeah, I was thinking we were just doing split on its own. So like that, yeah? Does that make sense? So it scanned the whole of the string looking for a Z, and at that point it removes the character that we've said to be the separator and creates a new element. Any questions on the split methods? If you ever want to look up any of these methods and see if they can do something else, again, my favorite is the MDN documentation, and if you clicked on that inbuilt list of string, down the left hand side it lists all of the string methods available in JavaScript. So you've got concat. If we come down, can find replace, we can find reverse somewhere. Not reverse, sorry, it's an array method, isn't it? We can find slice, we can find split. Yeah, so they're all there. And once you've found it, you can click on that and get some more information about the split method. So it might be that you have a common use case for these methods and you scroll down and, oh, that's interesting. So we can definitely give it a separator, and that is optional, but there's also an optional limit input that we can give it there, a limit parameter. So it's useful to know the default behavior of your functions as well, and they're not always similar. The default behavior of this method is if the separator is omitted or does not occur in the string, then the returned array contains one element consisting of the entire string. So what that means in a practical sense is if we did not put any separator in there, which I think was a question from some of you said it failed, and I wasn't 100% sure. But it seems the default behavior is it will just return the original string. Which it does. Yeah, so you do not need to put a separator in there, but you might as well, right? Otherwise, why are you using split? Just to turn something into an array? Well, there's better methods to do that. The toArray method, for example, yeah, or array from method. Is there a toArray method? Maybe not. There's definitely an array from method. So, how about the limit? What does the limit do? So we said divide it by a space. Then you can have a second input of the limit. So what does the limit do? It should tell you. So you can't use negative numbers, and it limits the number of splits. So what happens, therefore, do you think, if I put a 2 in there? What's my output going to be now? Same? So you're counting your index at 0 or what? Oh, 2 splits, yeah. So I think it's going to be the same. No, it's not going to be the same. So it is literally going to say 2 elements. Yeah. So that wasn't 100% clear maybe from the documentation. That's originally what I thought it meant, but then I thought Max was right when he said it's going to create 2 splits, like 1, 2, so we still end up with 3 elements. But in other words, it hasn't included that final element in the array because I've got a limit of 2 there. If I put a limit of 1 there, I'm just going to get Leonardo. Limit of 4, it should be back to normal. Limit of 3, of course, is still normal. Whoops. Yeah, so that's how you can maybe just extract the first couple of words from a sentence. Yeah, however many extra words we had in here, rather than just splitting all of them and then filtering or something weird like that, just put a limit. Just please give me the first couple of words, and it will ignore all the remaining ones. Yeah, so pretty useful.
Case sensitive.
Is it case sensitive? I believe it is. Yep, so have we got some capital D's? Yeah, nice. So we want to split by what? A lowercase d or an uppercase d?
Just do lower, just see.
Lowercase d. I'll take off the limit now because we're not really... Yeah, so do we expect it, the first word to... Well, we'll probably know what the first word's going to be, but what's the second element going to be? Is it just going to be O space, or is it going to be O space DA turtle up until the next lowercase d? That's the question we're trying to find out here. Do you think it's case sensitive or not? I would think it's case sensitive, yeah, but it's worth a test. And it is case sensitive, so when it sees a capital D, it doesn't recognize that as a split. And as far as I'm aware, there's no way to make that case insensitive. Yeah, it's not a regular expression that you can easily make case insensitive. It's just the character, lowercase d. Good question. Any others? Or we'll carry on with the other methods. So we got reverse. I'll get rid of the nonsense again. And after that we had join. Now does reverse itself need any arguments? Nope. Can it take any arguments? As far as I'm aware, no, but it's always worth checking the documentation. Ooh. Oh yeah, array reverse. So if you scroll down to that same section, look at the syntax. Array dot reverse, nothing inside, return value, the reversed array. That's it. There's no optional parameters inside there. So that's all it does. Nice. And then our last one was dot join. Oh, I've already done it, sorry. What happens if I don't put any arguments inside of dot join? What is its default behavior? It joins it with a comma between each element in the array. Any spaces again? No. Where's that extra O come from? Oh, we've still got the D in there. So to make it a bit clearer and have our actual words. Yeah, see? So no spaces, but just comma separated. So really useful if you want to create a comma separated variable file. Alright. If we wanted some spaces between each word, how would we do it? Space. I've got a space in there now. Does that work? No. So space inside of quotes, yeah? I know I might be being a bit pedantic, but you've got to be with your language when you're talking about coding and when you're explaining things on the board challenge, yeah? If I put a couple of underscores under there, what's my output going to look like? Be joined by underscores, so turtle underscore underscore da underscore underscore Leonardo, yeah? Exactly, yeah. And you can put whatever you want in there. And the word, yeah? Turtle and the word da and the word Leonardo, yeah? So whatever you want to put in there, you can join it with. Any curiosities again? Things you want to play around with those three methods? No? What does the replace method do? Don't have a double depth ever. What does replace do?
It's going to take like two arguments. You put one in so it searches the string for the first argument and then replace it with the second argument if it's present. I think.
Absolutely. So what would you like to replace?
So you can replace Leonardo with Jeff.
Jeff the turtle. Is that your pet turtle from when you were younger? Okay. So Leonardo, the thing to search for, and then Jeff, the turtle, to replace it with. Okay. So we're hoping that this will now output Jeff the turtle. Maybe. Yeah. Let's have a look. Indeed it does. Well done. So yeah, we can use the replace method to search for a certain string and replace it with whatever we want. If we had a couple of Leos in the sentence, or in the very strange phrase that I've created, then would that replace all of them? Yeah, why not, we say? Yeah. Ooh, just replace the first one. Might be what we wanted, I don't know, you know, but it's been aware of what the function actually does before we try and use it in our code. So replace with, you think because it's together, so if we put a space in there, you think it will work? Afraid not. So it only does replace the first instance, whether there's a space there or not. But how could we rewrite the replace function to make it replace all instances of Leo with Jeff?
Do a for loop.
Could do a for loop. So, but how would you know how long to do the for loop for?
So I would personally split.
I'll come back to whoever online is saying that in a second. We've just got an answer in the room.
So I would split the string into an array and then cycle through using a for of loop. And
Right.
then do a conditional within that. And if the word is Leo, then I would then put name replace. It feels really long now that I'm saying it out loud.
It feels really long to me as well. You're saying we'll do a for loop, and then if this and if that, then we'll do this. Otherwise, yeah. So there's an easier way. I'm sure it would work, but filter. What would you filter by? You'd filter. What's going to be your truthy condition? Why will that replace things? I don't quite understand how you're going to filter it. Well, was it Zara online who said something?
Yeah.
What was your suggestion?
What was it? I thought it might be similar to what I was looking at, where it had the optional. You could add an optional parameter. Maybe I thought.
So Zara thinks there might be an optional parameter that we can add, so we could check that. It was string method replace, right? What's that popping? That's not in this room, is it? Cool. As long as the electricity's not going. And right. So it looks like we can only give it 2 arguments, right? We either give it a substring, which is what we did, or we give it a regular expression. And then our second argument can be the new substring or a function to do whatever we want, I guess, to run a bit of code based on that substring being present. So the method that I would use is, rather than using a substring, because if you use that, then we have this limitation here. Only the first occurrence will be replaced if we use a substring. However, if we use a regular expression, which we haven't covered yet, but there is some training on the platform on intermediate JavaScript about how to use regular expressions, and they're very, very powerful and efficient for manipulating strings. And we can use them in JavaScript as well. So instead of writing Leo like that, you can write it in between forward slashes, which is the way you denote a regular expression literal in JavaScript. And you can put a little I symbol afterwards to make it case insensitive. You can put a little, am I getting these right? You can put a little G symbol in it to make it global, to make it match more than one time. I hope I've got that right. So if we just put a G there, I'm hoping it will replace all instances of Leo with Jeff, and it does. So here we haven't passed a string as our first argument, we have passed a regular expression as our first argument, and you can do that in the replace method. So all that's doing is looking again for the string Leo, for the characters, the pattern of Leo, and it's looking multiple times because we've put this G there If we didn't put the G there, it will have the same behavior. It will just replace the first instance. If we don't have the I there, and we have a Leo and a Leo, then, oh, yeah, but we leave the G. What's that going to do? Is it going to replace the first instance of Leo? Yeah. Is it going to replace the second instance of Leo?
No.
Why not?
I was the case, isn't it?
Because the cases are different. So we should get that output. Even though we've got please replace all instances of Leo. If we put an I there, it makes it case insensitive. So now what are we going to get? Well, you think it's just going to have I turtle, something like that. That's quite a cool little phrase, but no. So we have Jeff turtle, hopefully. It will replace all instances of Leo, whether they're uppercase or lowercase. We could have some weird combination like that with a capital E, and it will still replace all instances of them. Pretty snazzy. So regular expressions are really powerful, which is why they exist, and they're especially good for lots of large operations involving maybe renaming files or renaming parts of text files. Yeah, you don't just have to use them in JavaScript. You can use them in the shell, use them in your terminal, all things like that as well. I'm probably tempted to leave it there unless people want to explore any other string methods. I'm happy to do that now. If you've heard of one, you don't know what it does. If you've got any questions on replace or other methods we've talked about today, please fire them away now. No? Yeah, so that'll be the end of the workshops for today then. Thanks for your board challenge participation. It's really good. As I say, try not to leave it until Thursday if possible. Obviously you know a bit more what's going on this time, and you'll have Monday to do it as well next week. So Monday morning there will be a new board challenge on the board. Topic will be slightly different. I can't remember exactly what it's going to be on now, but it will be another JavaScript one, and then the week after we'll have a React based one as well. So there'll be opportunity to learn and talk about React components and props and all those sorts of things. Good, thank you very much. Any questions online, guys? Zara, Damiano, anything? No? Okay.
No.
Great stuff. Thanks very much then, guys. Get me on Slack if you need.
Okay, thank you, bye.
Cheers, bye.